Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our online training on Earth observation for coral reef resilience. My name is Ignatius Williams, and I'm thrilled to be here with all of you today. We have an exciting program lined up over the next 3 and is going to be bringing together experts and participants from across the continent to explore how Earth observation tools can be leveraged to protect and preserve coral reefs, a vital resource for marine ecosystems and coastal communities. This training is part of the GMES and Africa project, a collaborative project which aims to enhance our capacity for environmental monitoring using space-based technologies. It is being jointly organized by the MacNoA and Marcosio Consortia, and this event reflects our commitment to extending knowledge and best practices from the Southern Indian Ocean region to North Africa and other parts of Africa, depending on where you're joining us from today. We're delighted to welcome all of our participants from across the continent, and we encourage you to make the most of this opportunity to connect, share, and learn. Before we dive into today's agenda, I'd like to share a few things. Unfortunately, because this is a webinar, most of your microphones have been disabled, and as such, you will not be able to make certain comments during the webinar. Per our agenda, we'll be starting off the training with some useful information on the GMES and Africa project, after which we'll delve into coral reef, ecology and monitoring with Swale Abdu. He is joining us from Kodio, East Africa, and he will set the stage for understanding the fundamental aspects of coral reef resilience and monitoring. We'll also have an introduction to the Copernicus Marine Services and the Dunia platforms. These are tools that will be essential in this training. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope that you learn and pick up some of the information that I'll be sharing with you over the next 3 days. If you're seeing my shared screen, I'll be going through the agenda briefly for today, and I'll just skip quickly to the chat options. So in order to be able to interact with people around you, would encourage you to connect. Please use the chat button as seen over here to make all your interactions. And once the presentation is happening, you can use the Q&A button to be able to post all your relevant questions. Today we have 3 speakers. Swale, like I mentioned earlier, from Kodio, East Africa. He's a researcher with this institution. And we also have Dr. Marie Smith, a senior researcher from CSIR. When it's time for them to do their presentations, they would introduce themselves. And myself, like I already introduced earlier. I'll go straight into the first presentation for the day, which is going to be looking at the GMES and Africa project. And this will be a joint presentation looking at the GMES Africa continental-wide initiative and also looking at the MacNoA consortium, which is happening in West and Northern Africa. As part of the issues that concern Africa with respect to marine and coastal areas monitoring, there are issues relating to fisheries, to transport, more importantly, to transboundary conflicts related to piracy and illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. This has prompted more technology and the use of Earth observation data to be able to look within and help to solve the problems within Africa. This has necessitated and is well captured within the Space Agenda 2063, where we look at issues of climate change, looking at developing and automizing issues to be able to also create avenues to employment, to enhance safety and security within maritime and within land as well, and also to increase the knowledge database within Africa. Now, this is being spearheaded and also helped within the development of currently the African Space Agency. This resolution and strategy was adopted by the heads of states and governments in January 2016. Over the years, we've had a lot of Earth observation initiatives, starting from 2001 with the PUMA project, which was the preparation for the utilization of Meteosat satellites in Africa. This evolved into the AMSD project in 2007, and later we had the MESA, and currently we've moved from the MESA to GMES, and we're currently running the second phase of the GMES and Africa project. This project is built on 6 main pillars or output areas. The first one is looking at improved policy and institutional framework, looking at increasing access to Earth observation data within the continent, to be able to build on information services developed during these periods for water and natural resources, as well as marine and coastal areas, as well as to enhance the capacities of African institutions to be able to utilize these services, and also to share knowledge and encourage synergies between similar projects, as well as improve the uptake and use of these services also. So the main aim of this project is to be able to link data providers to the end users. So you have people collecting data, Earth observation data, institutions like the European Space Agency, Mercator Ocean International, and EUMETSAT also, who are all collecting different degrees of data and making it available to institutions such as ourselves. These data and products are processed usable formats such as maps, reports, and bulletins for use to end users such as fishermen, farmers, researchers, NGOs, and different categories as we go by. Throughout this project, certain Earth observation equipment have also been made available across the continent, and users have been trained on how to be able to utilize them. One of this massive infrastructure, Earth observation receiving stations, is the E-Station, and this has been deployed within the countries listed over there. The GMES and Africa project has currently involved 8 consortia in the second phase, looking at different applications from water and natural resources management within the region. Currently, there are 94 institutions who are taking up these services within 5 regions. Since the first phase of the GMES and Africa project, certain institutions have been merged into forming bigger consortia in the principle of leaving no one behind. For the applications, there are currently 11 applications which have been developed for users by the University of Ghana and CSIR in Southern Africa. These include services like monitoring and forecasting of ocean variables, coastal area monitoring, ship traffic, and marine weather forecast alerts. We're going to hear more about these services in the subsequent presentations by myself and Dr. Marie Smith. There's also a very important aspect of communication where we try to put as much out there to be able to inform what is being used by critical users. I'd move on quickly to the marine and coastal area management in North and West Africa, that is MACNOA. This is spanning over a consortium of 18 countries from North to West Africa, and it's being led by the University of Ghana together with 11 partners. Like I showed earlier, the University of Ghana has been involved since 2013 in the MESA project till date. The area of this particular implementation has also evolved from 2 services in the MESA project to the current 6 services that are on offer by the University of Ghana. These services are coming in different categories, which have been grouped into coastal, fisheries, and oceanographic services. This includes the shoreline services, monitoring variability, oil spill monitoring, ocean state alerts, monitoring of ocean variables, coastal ecosystem mapping, and potential fishing zone mapping. These are the categories of products that are available per each service. For the fishery services, we are mainly going to have information on potential fishing zone maps and vessel trajectories to member countries. These are examples of maps under the oceanographic variables, and these are some of the coastal services that are also available. The recent inclusion to these services, the oil spill mapping service, which is available for the entire region, but also customized for specific countries, like we see here in the case of Egypt and Tunisia. All these Earth observation services are available via bulletins and scientific reports. However, there are also avenues in which you can receive these services via the mobile application developed by the project, the GeoPortal, where you can find all the information, as well as the eStation online, where you can also receive some of this information and do some analysis yourself. A lot has been done with respect to capacity building at the community level, at the institutional level, and most often we also have open training like we're having right now, where everybody is open to attend. We have currently advertised and our 8 postgraduate grants to participants from various countries within these regions. We expect to advertise a new batch of master's grants soon, so we would encourage you to apply if you fall within these specific categories. We also have several international collaborations with agencies from Europe and also within Africa. If you want more information on this, I'd encourage you to follow us on the various platforms to receive most of this information. Thank you very much. So I'll be moving on to my next presenter, who is going to take us through the GMES and Africa services at the Southern Africa region. Dr. Marie Smith, are you here with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. So you can please extend and proceed with your presentation.
Okay, just want to double check you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Marie Smith. As mentioned, I'm a senior researcher at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research based in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm going to turn off my camera just to keep the bandwidth down, but I'm obviously still here. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. So I'm going to be telling you a bit more about the Marine and Coastal Operations for Southern Africa and the Indian Ocean States project, also known as MARCOSIO. So I am part of the consortium lead, which is the CSRR. And I'm also the lead on a personal capacity, I'm the lead of the aquaculture service, the co-developer of the coastal ecosystem service, and a member of the capacity development team within MARCOSIO. But let's tell you a little bit more about the project. Okay, so within GMS in Africa, MARCOSIO is responsible for the African coastal regions in the south and the eastern parts of Africa, and also the Western Indian Ocean island states. The consortium develops applications and services that support policy and drives the ocean's economy of the region. This is done by championing, co-designing, and co-developing decision support services that use satellite data provided by the European Union's Copernicus program. So, as Ignatius mentioned, there are 2 marine consortia within the GMS in Africa program, and MARCOSIO is one of the 2, whereas MARCNOA is the other one. This consortium is coordinated by the CSR based in South Africa, and it represents 12 different organizations from 8 different countries. That covers the region all the way from Angola around to Kenya and into the Western Indian Ocean. We have a very diverse array of partners that range from non-profit organizations, universities, government departments, to regional organizations. And altogether, they cover the entire spectrum of technical, policy, and academic roles across the coastal and marine domains. So we also try to spread the load so that each of the partner operates in and contributes in their realm of expertise. So it's very important that Mocosia is used to stimulate the use of Earth observation data services and applications that promote the growth of the blue economy in Africa. But it's also very important to do this while ensuring the sustainable use and management of its marine resources. So we try to understand the different oceans and coastal environments and the specific needs and requirements of the different countries and stakeholders in our region. And this is generally achieved through the support of our consortium partners and networks. In so doing, we're able to better support the countries in our region in order for them to govern and protect their marine environments. And lastly, we want to build capacity and strengthen sustainable expertise and institutions that are able to continue using Earth observation data for decision-making into the future. So the GMS in Africa projects have several key pillars that make up its implementation. The first of this is the policy and institutional frameworks. So this involves the engagement with relevant organizations about Earth observation data and geospatial technologies and the benefits of using these for decision making. So we establish communities of practice across the different thematic domains and set up agreements to ensure and enforce the use of Earth observation data access. We also engage with regional and national institutions to ensure the coherence and harmonization of policies in the region and formalize the integration of Earth observation-based information into policies for monitoring and reporting on water and natural resources and coastal marine areas. A large part of our work in this pillar also depends on our policy and technical expert groups, which aims to involve experts from the different sectors. So through these groups, we're able to work to align our services and policies to policies and institutional frameworks and to ensure their usefulness and sustainability. It also enables us to share the knowledge and best practices within our consortium and among the other consortia in GMS in Africa. There's also services that are co-designed and they are built upon the provision of information derived from satellite and Earth observation data. In Mocosia, we have 6 support tools spanning 3 different service domains, namely the Fisheries and Aquaculture Service, the Coastal Service, and the Marine and Maritime Service. Under the fisheries support, we provide the fishers with support through our partners Abalobi and Tafiri. The Abalobi mobile application assists the fishers with understanding their environment and improving the safety at sea, whereas the Tafiri potential fishing zone application assists with optimizing the fishing effort and protecting and managing the fishing zones in Tanzania. The aquaculture support tool assists with operational monitoring of the growing environment of marine species and enabling the users to track the water quality concerns like marine heat waves and harmful algal blooms. The Coastal Ecosystem Service is operated by our sub-consultants Cyanolakes, and this provides near real-time high-resolution maps of coastal ecosystems, cyanobacteria blooms, floating vegetation, and water turbidity. The Coral Bleaching Monitoring Service is probably the most relevant to this training course. It was co-developed by the domain experts Cordio East Africa, and it provides up-to-date environmental monitoring of current and accumulated heat stress that could result in coral bleaching. But more on that later in this week. Lastly, we also have the Ship Traffic Monitoring application, which provides authorized users with the capability to monitor vessels near the Southern African coastline in near real time and also historical vessel tracks and vessel-specific information. And then it allows the users to differentiate between cooperative and non-cooperative vessels. And then we also have the Safety at Sea application that provides ocean and wind predictions and up-to-date sea state information. And this app assists the mandated organizations to plan sea search and rescue operations. In terms of capacity building, we also have a very strong focus and try to do this in a variety of ways, including webinars like this or in-person services training. We also try to tailor make some domain-specific training in the use of Earth observation data for specific purposes, like, for instance, this training where we focus on coral bleaching monitoring. We also host regional stakeholder events and workshops, as well as student exchanges and training. And as Mognoa, we also have awards for studentships to African students. So please keep an eye on our social media for these funding calls coming up early next year. And lastly, GMS Africa also has a very strong outreach and dissemination push. So we try to publicize our work and achievements on the Marcosio social media channels, as well as those of our partners. And we try to do this in the form of media briefs, blog posts, tweets, and newsletters. We're very active on LinkedIn and Twitter, so you can follow us on these platforms, or you can visit the Marcosio website. And that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marie. We will be going to our next presenter for now. Swale, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think you can take the floor now.
Yeah, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So, hello everyone again, and welcome to another presentation. My name is Swale Abu, and I'm a coral reef scientist with Codio East Africa, and I'll be talking about the resilience and the standardized monitoring protocol currently in use across the Western Indian Ocean region, which was developed under the framework of the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network, termed as GCRMN. So my presentation outline, I'll give an overview or an introduction, specifically covering on the ecological role or ecological function of coral reefs, and then I'll give us I'll provide some threads of the coral reef and their impact on the reefs, and then I'll cover a concept of resilience, and then I'll go into the monitoring protocol which is being used within our region. In coral reef, an ecological role could be the function a species serve, like coral building reefs, fish managing algae, and predators maintaining balance. And I'll talk more on the three aspects of ecological role, which include the biodiversity hub, whereby it consists of the diverse of marine life, which illustrates their roles as a critical habitat that support various species and promote ocean health. And then I'll also touch on the human connection, the connection between coral and human, whereby the coastal activities like fishing and snorkeling, tourism industries, and fisheries all they connect from the coral reef. And then I'll complete on the land-sea interdependence, where I'll be touching on the surrounding other ecosystem, including mangroves, tropical forest, and seagrass. So on the biodiversity, so coral reef are known for supporting rich diversity of all organisms. I mean, of majority of organisms globally. They act as a species habitat, whereby they provide essential habitat for a wide range of these marine species, including fish, invertebrates, and marine mammals, making them one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet. They also play ecological function, whereby this diversity of species on coral reef support various ecological functions, such as nutrient cycling, and the relationship between prey and predators, and also bring the balance of species in this population. And also this diversity includes the genetic diversity, whereby within the species, which enhances the adaptability of this marine ecosystem and also increase the resilience. And then on the human connection side of coral reef, including food security, whereby reefs support diverse fish population that are the primary source for millions of people, particularly in coastal area, where they ensure protein supply and supporting local fisheries. The economies and livelihood is also part of a connection that is being observed in coral reef, whereby the coral reef attract the tourists, which support on the tourist sector, and also the activity through that sector, including diving and snorkeling, which they generate revenue and supporting jobs in this industry. And also many coastal communities, they also depend on reef-related activities, including fisheries, which they provide income and kind of a livelihood to them. Also, reefs, they do provide coastal protection, which they serve as a natural wave barrier. Thus, they are reducing the impact of storm, erosion, and flooding on shoreline. So this protection is very important because it's safeguarding coastal communities and their infrastructure and habitats from these extreme weather events. And based on the study, for example, marine generally was found to contribute to about 138 billion US dollars, whereby a significant of these contributions comes from coral reef fisheries. Also on the land-based interdependence, where a concept of water quality, whereby coral reef are facing serious threat from this pollution, sedimentation, and runoff, which all comes from the land. So this pollution from agriculture, as an example, and industry degrades water quality, while sedimentation, it smothers corals and blocks sunlight, hence degrading this reef ecosystem. However, the coral reef also provide ecosystem service, working closely with other ecosystems, including mangrove and seagrass, which they serve as a nursery for marine species, also supporting in filtering pollutants and provide a healthy environment for human. Also, the concept of climate change, which adds to the challenge the reefs faces. For example, the land activities like deforestation, which release carbon or other greenhouse gases, leading to rising ocean temperature, which cause a huge bleaching event, coral bleaching to these reefs. And I think in tomorrow's presentation by Dr. Karim Moise, we'll cover more on the climate change concept and coral reef impact. So despite all these benefits that coral reef provided, they are currently under pressure from different activities, including overfishing, also connected habitat destruction, trade, disease, responsible tourism, and climate change. All these which pose a big threat to reefs and result to reef degradation. I'll add more details on this coral bleaching threats, and our other presenter, that is Dr. Karen Moyes and James Buba, will talk more about it in their presentation tomorrow. So corals require algae called zooanthellae to survive, as they have a symbiotic relationship where zooanthellae supply the coral with nutrients, while coral bleaching occurs when corals are stressed by high sea temperatures, leading them to expel their symbiotic algae, which result in a loss of color and essential nutrients. So if sea temperature returns to normal level immediately, then corals will be able to potentially recover and by reabsorbing this zooanthellae. However, if this high sea temperature persists, the likelihood of recovery diminishes and the coral may proceed may move to mortality. So the impact of this, all these stresses, including pollution and climate change impact, this compounding is contributing to reduce the resilience of these reefs. And as an example, in the Western Indian Ocean, the research that was done using the list of ecosystem framework of IUCN found that the reef in the Western Indian Ocean is between vulnerable to collapse. And the compounding effect of this scenario were temperature and overfishing, which they're contributing much to this vulnerability of the Western Indian Ocean reefs. So the reef resilience, as defined by Holling in the 1970s, is defined as the ability of a system to withstand change and disturbances while maintaining the relationship between populations. So this means that resilience is very important for understanding how coral reef adapt or succumb to ongoing threats and recover from these disturbances. There are many factors to consider in assessing the resilience potential of different reefs, and there are many studies which have been undertaken to document the resilience of these reefs. For this presentation, I'll use the recent publication by one of our staff at Kodo East Africa, that is Burka, where he categorized all these indicators into three main groups. So the essential components, which consist of factors that directly support the coral reef's ability to resist and recover from disturbances. They are fundamental for maintaining the ecological function and health of the reefs. An example of this include hard coral, fish, and fleshy algae, thermal profile, and the reef structures. The second group are the complementary components, which these are factors that enhance or support the reef resilience, but are not much essential than the essential components. So they provide additional buffering capacity where they help reefs to withstand or recover from disturbances more effectively. This could include corallivores, bioeroders, and other biodiversity. And the third groups, which there are threats, and the threats are factors that negatively impact coral reefs, which reduce their resilience. So threats can come from both local and global stresses that degrade reef health and hinder the recovery from disturbances. This could include cyclones, overfishing, destructive fishing activities, pollution, and climate change. So building on this overview of the ecological role and the resilience of coral reefs, I'll now move on the next section, which focuses on coral reef monitoring. I will focus more on the underwater visual sensors technique, but there are other several methods such as photo and video transect, where divers or remotely operated vehicles capture image or videos along a predefined transect. There's also acoustic monitoring, which involves using of hydrophones to record underwater sounds from reef organisms. But also there's a remote sensing techniques where satellite and drones help in gathering the data of reef areas and habitat types and environmental changes. And I believe one of the presenters, that's Dr. Mary Smith, in her presentation tomorrow, will cover more on using this kind of environmental data using remote sensing. So my first question on this monitoring, I'll ask, why do we monitor reefs? So there are numerous reasons, and here I have highlighted a few, which include we do monitor reef to be able to track reef conditions and detect changes over time, and also to be able to provide data which will guide in the effective management and protection efforts, and also based on the specific objectives or of the study or any ongoing research. The second question, where to undertake monitoring? Since the focus as an example is coral reef ecosystem, it means the place or the focus should be in a coral reef ecosystem. And this could be categorized in different areas, include the high biodiversity areas, which include the area with the rich marine life to track ecosystem health and biodiversity, and also focus on climate vulnerable zone, which include the regions affected by warming, bleaching, or acidification, so that you can be able to monitor this climate impact. Also in protected marine areas, including the marine parks and other community managed areas where they've established conservation zone, so that you'll be able to assess the effectiveness of protection measures. And also could focus on a heavily fished or developed coast, which will include the area near human activities, so that to evaluate the impact from fishing, tourism, and other threats. Also a remote or untouched reef, so that we can have a baseline for the pristine reefs. The second question is when to carry out monitoring. So this also varies by program and monitoring goals, but consistency should be the key. So the maps and graphs show in here, it shows the monitoring sites within the Western Ocean, which we must conduct our monitoring during the favorable season, which is northeast monsoon season, which covered along our region. And monitoring could be done in a regular basis, such as annually or biannually, which based on the schedule monitoring, so that to set those intervals to track the change in status. Also could be done in during before and after major events, such as during the bleaching events, whereby to assess the impact of those major events or major threats to coral reefs. Also could be done during specific season. For example, monitoring could be done during the spawning or growth season, so that to observe those ecological cycles, and also could be done based on the project need, which you align monitoring with the key project phases or reporting. So another question, what to monitor? So there's a number of variables or indicators in our reefs that you could not cover them all in one survey or in one monitoring. So depend on the objective, you will be able to define what to monitor. You could monitor the biophysical of water, you could monitor the biotic factors, you could monitor the abiotic factors. But based on our monitoring surveys at Audio and other Western Indian Ocean partners, we do focus on variable which inform on the resilience and the status of our reefs, which include the benthic cover. So benthic cover tracks the composition and coral algae balance. We also monitor coral demography, which include adult size class, which indicates growth rate, healthy and maturity, and also coral recruitment, which indicates if the regeneration of reef and future resilience, and also coral condition, which monitor for stress signs like signs such as bleaching, and also focus on fish abundance, which include both density and biomass, which measures the ecosystem health and fishing threats, and also for the fish diversity, which reflect ecosystem balance. So how to monitor? So there's different monitoring protocols being applied globally, different protocols either at global level but I mean, all these monitoring protocol, the standard one, should be tailored to specific program countries, like the national level monitoring program, or regions like what we have in the Western Indian Ocean. However, all this should align to a standardized method, so that monitoring to follow established guidelines to ensure consistency and comparability. Also, the monitoring should adapt the local needs. So protocol may be adjusted based on local reef condition, resources, and management goals. Also, the use of technology, as technology is evolving, and so the method should also evolve so that it can capture more higher scale if needed. So in the WIO region, where we established a standardized coral reef monitoring manual, which is now used across our region, and shown here are the two cover pages of our monitoring protocols, which are available online and have been supported by different organizations, including the Indian Ocean Commission, the IUCN, and the Nairobi Convention. We also have a bleaching monitoring manual, which focuses specifically on tracking coral bleaching events. And my colleague, James Mbogwa, tomorrow will provide further details on its content and the standardized method established for the Western Indian Ocean. We also have a manual designed for community-led monitoring, tailored for individuals with basic skills, such as local community members. So it primarily uses the point intercept method and includes simple variables to help inform management decision for the community LMMA areas. So on this presentation, I'll focus on scientific standard monitoring protocol, which I will start by providing the protocol or the method we're using in surveying the benthic cover. And as I mentioned earlier, benthic cover monitors the composition proportions of benthic groups within the reefs. And this one, we use three primary methods for this, which is our line intercept transect, point intercept transect, and protocol dot. So for the line intercept transect, which required 2 observers, and the transect length will be 10 or 20 meter long, and those lines are being tightened through the bottom of the ocean, and it's laying very closely to the substrate, and is being tightened using the rocks or the coral head for support. And the recording for this method is recording at a very low resolution. So how you record it? So first you record the distance of change for each category. So for example, from 0 to 80, the benthic category is recorded. For this case is acropora branching. And then from 80 to 150, it's sand. And then from 150 to 250, it's platydera, which shows that it had covered 100 centimeter distance of this category, and then moved to 250 to 320, which is microalgae that covered a distance of 70, and you continue recording the length of change and the corresponding distance for each category. The second method, point intercept transect, which applied the same principle as explained in the previous slide in laying the transect. The resolution for pitch should be determined before undertaking monitoring, and the recording is done by points where resolution has been determined. So, for example, if we decided on our resolution of 5 centimeter interval, it means at 0 centimeter, you record the benthic category directly beneath it. So in this case, it's acropora branching. Then move to the next point, say 5 centimeter, and then you record the category there, such as sand for acropora or sand for our case. And then you continue this process at regular interval of 5 centimeter until you cover the whole transect line. The third method, which our protocol also has included, is the photo contact method, which involves taking random photos at interval of 3 to 5 meters, which is estimated by the kick of flippers. So each photo should cover an area of about 1 meter square. So we take photos approximately 0.7 to 1 meters above the benthic substrate. And transect line in this method is used as a guide to prevent photo overlap. And we take photos on both sides of the line to avoid taking overlapping photos. Also, in monitoring the adult size class, we do record adult corals with colonies size more than 10 centimeter long, using the longest width, and we do record within a belt transect of 25 meter by 1 meter. And we only focus 23 predetermined genera. So these 23 genera were selected as they are extensively distributed and common across the region and consist of genera with a gradient of response to heat stress, which is from sensitive to resistance. And we use a 1 meter calibrated PVC pipe that will assist in measuring the colony size. And we only measure the colony which are within the 1 meter wide belt, which we do measure and count. And we also recorded the coral condition. So coral condition, we categorize them based on different conditions, including healthy, if it is in normal state, or pale, bleached, partially dead, if the colony has been predated upon, or if it has sediment on top or disease. And we record this also within the same belt transect of 25 meter by 1, and we count colonies, and we target the same 23 coral genera defined before. We also count small corals, which we define as the colonies with a diameter size of less than 10 centimeter, and we count them within a quadrat of 1 meter square. And the quadrat is placed at an interval of 5 meter, that is at 0 points, and then move to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. This means that in a 25 meter transect, we'll be covering 6 quadrats. And the categorization of colonies, we tally them by genus, and we recorded all the genus, and also categorize them in size classes, where the coral colony, which is less than 2.5 centimeter, as a separate class, and then 2.6 to 5, and then 6 to 10. And we also do fish abundance, which consists both of density and the biomass. Density means the population or the individual numbers, and the biomass is the conversion of that population into weight, to know how many kilograms within the reefs. And we use a belt transect of 50 meter by 5 meter, that is covering 250 meter square, and it involves 2 observers, one record and the other lay the transect. And we're targeting families, only 11 families, spanning 12 trophic groups, which were documented for their abundance and size classes. So this family also were chosen to offer a broad and representative sample of the reef fish community. And recording includes counting the numbers and also tallying them by size class and identifying the species. And then now we use this number and size class using the defined formula to be able to get the biomass of this fish. The recording process involves one observer swimming along the transect to count and record fish, while the second observer set up the transect line. And then on the return, the first observer continues counting and tallying fish, while the second observer collects the transect steps. So these are generally the key variables, the key indicators we are focusing, and there are many other indicators, including invertebrates and other organisms, which they may depend on the reef areas of your focus. Thank you all for listening. I'll stop here for any question, comments, or clarification. And I've included a QR code linking to various resources which I've presented here, which are all freely and accessible online. Thank you again for attending.
Thank you very much, Swale. Very insightful presentations. Before we move on, I'd like to you to respond to some questions before we get on with it. So our first question is, what category can you put corals? Are they plants or organisms? What is the major factor that significantly contributes to coral bleaching?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ignacio. So I'll respond to first question, and then I don't know if James will respond on the coral bleaching. Yeah, so corals are part of animals. They do feed. So they're part of a cnidarian group. So the animal and the living organism, but they're living in symbiotic relationship with the zooxanthellae together.
Yeah, and on the stressors of corals, so there was that question. There was that question that what causes coral bleaching. So there are various stressors on what causes coral bleaching. So you could have pollution as one of the threats, also cyclone activities, and ocean acidification, and majorly sea surface temperature, which is the main threat for coral bleaching. So there are several factors, but it could be as a result of a combination. But what we know as now is that sea surface temperature changes in sea surface temperature is the main contributor to coral bleaching.
Yeah, thanks. And maybe I can maybe add into that. So why are we focusing more on temperature as a main contributor to coral bleaching? Because other factors which James mentioned, including pollution and clone of swamp, for example. So all those other factors, they are more on local scales. So it means either the reef of your area, there's pollution, which will contribute to that coral bleaching. So it's more on the local scale. But the temperature changes, which is wide and will affect like the whole ocean or the whole region, like what we have experienced in 2024, the massive global bleaching events, which it means all the corals worldwide have been affected because they're depending on the same water, which they don't have a boundary. That's why we focus more on coral bleaching as the major stressors to corals, but also we do consider other local threats.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another question with interest from West Africa. Has there been any survey of corals in the West African region, particularly in the Gulf of Guinea? And are there any maps of this in case you've come across them in your time studying coral reefs?
Yeah, thanks. So to say that I'm not familiar with the West African most of the time, but what I know is the West African region, it's the coral there are less developed, and I'm not sure if there's any ongoing monitoring of coral reefs on those areas. But I'm not sure on the map, the any coral reef map on those areas.
Yeah, also on the distribution of the corals, so they don't show up quite well, and we already know that these are kind of tropical ecosystems. So they develop within around 20 degrees north and south of the equator, and they are well developed in warm waters, whereas in the West African region, I think the conditions are not quite favorable for the growth of these corals. They might be there, but they're not well developed to some extent. So maybe somebody from the region has more experience than we do.
Okay, thank you, Swale and James. From previous knowledge, we haven't really, like you said, seen any established corals within this region due to the conditions which are not really suitable for coral growth. Also, a lot of turbidity within the system, not enough light penetration. But with some surveys, people have come across some amounts of corals off the La Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana boundary in deep sea. These are often dead madreporanean corals. So as much as I know, not much living corals that we come across within this region. For the next question, it says, at which depth do you use each method? And can you describe the survey for the corals, particularly for the scuba diving method? What depth do you use for this?
Yeah, thanks again, Ignatius, and thanks, Kennedy, for the question. So the method which I described here, we use them at all depth range, but I can say maximum maybe 20 meters or more than that. So we normally use this survey in specifically the 4 reefs areas, and also in the reef flat areas where you don't need scuba diving, you don't need snorkeling, and also on the 4 reef where we use scuba diving. We're using the same method. So maybe the only difference is how the extent of the reefs. So in the 4 reef area, for example, with the high extent of the reef, we apply more transect on those areas like 3 or 4. But on the reef flat area, which they are patchy, where now you can apply 2 or 3 transect on those reefs. For the deep reef, such of mesophotic reefs, which could be limited by scuba diving, there are many other protocol or many other methods which are coming up, including using the deep cameras and also using drones and other underwater vehicles being sent there.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll take one last question before we move to the next presentation. There's another question seeking more clarification, I think, from you, James. So he says, so to what extent, and I think that is what the whole training is about, the effects of sea surface temperature on coral formation. I think you wanted a bit more clarification on the comment you made, James.
Yeah, so thanks for that. And so my reference was made to the global distribution of coral reef from the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network. So we have a layer that shows where the coral reefs occur. And if you're keen enough, you look at that map, which I don't have the opportunity to show now, but I'll present it tomorrow. You will see that the distribution is within the equatorial region. And I made a wild kind of estimate from around 18 degrees north and 18 degrees south, or even further mid. But yeah, so that's the extent to which that occurs, and this is the equatorial areas where we have warmer waters or warmer conditions that support the development and growth of coral reefs. Yeah.
Thank you very much, James. Did you want to add something, Swale?
Yes. So for the coral formation in terms of the biology of coral, which they live in symbiotic relationship with algae, so it means in any environmental condition should take into account the two organisms, that is zooxanthellae and corals. So for the zooxanthellae to survive any temperature more than 29 or 30, it's already becoming stressed. And this also depends on like what James has mentioned on the tropical reefs, which the temperature are within the 29, 28, 29 centimeters. So it means our coral have adapted to that temperature. So more than that, it means it may be difficult to survive. But I'm not sure in the other region, like the Red Sea, where the temperature is always high. So maybe they'll also be able to adapt to that temperature. But more than that, again, the zooxanthellae is being stressed, and it will be able, our coral will be able to expel away the zooxanthellae.
Thank you very much. We've had loads of questions for this particular round and would want to proceed and keep up with time. So for the next presentation, we would invite Dr. Mary Smith to come back, and she's going to talk about the Copernicus Marine Service. If you remember, this is one of the platforms that we asked you to register on because we'll be using resources from the service. So Dr. Mary Smith will be taking us into the introduction to this particular service. Marie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can I just once again confirm that you can see my screen and that it's showing the correct screen?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so as Ignatius said, I will be introducing the Copernicus Marine Services. This is a service that produces the satellite data products that we'll be using during our practical examples this week. So let's start with a bit of an overview. So Copernicus is the Earth observation component of the European Union space program. It is dedicated to the observation of our planet for the benefit of society. This program has 6 different services, which are based on the processing of environmental data collected from satellites and in situ sensors. So the services range from atmospheric monitoring, marine monitoring, land monitoring, climate change, emergency management, and security. The satellites that provide the data for these services are split into 2 groups. The first one, which you might have heard about before, is called the Sentinel satellites. And these are satellites and sensors that were specifically developed for the needs of the Copernicus program. They are numbered from Sentinel-1 all the way through to Sentinel-6. And they each have different sensors for different applications for monitoring the environment. At any stage, there might be more than one different Sentinel-1, for instance, satellites in the sky at any given time. And then they would be performing in constellation, and it would be numbered 1A, 1B, 1C, etc. There are also about 30 contributing satellite missions that are operated by national, European, and international organizations that then also provide additional data sources for the program. It's very important that the services are open source and all the environmental data and information are provided free of charge. So obviously in this webinar, we are just focusing on the Marine Environmental Monitoring Service. So you can reach this service from a single access point at marine.copernicus.eu. Constantly reminding you that everything is free and open. You only need to sign up for an account if you want to download data, but you don't have to pay for this anyway. You just sign up. They offer an extensive catalog of products, so over 300, that are scientifically qualified and validated. And the platform is and information products are user-driven. So there's constant upgrades and improvements taking place that takes the user experience into account. You'll also see if you do go onto the website, there's even a little chatbot in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you want to ask it any questions about where you can find a specific tool or a specific product, it's there to help you. They also make use of very common scientific data formats like NetCDF, and these change with time as the science changes as well. In terms of the service offerings, they provide several different types of data or several different themes of data. They've grouped it into the blue ocean, which provides the physical components of the ocean. So these are things like temperature, salinity, waves, wind, sea surface elevation, everything that tells you about the physical oceanography. You also have the green ocean, which provides products from the biogeochemical component. So this is the plankton, the carbon, the oxygen, the optics, things like that. And then you also have the white ocean, which focuses on the ice and the frozen parts of the earth and the ocean. So this includes things like the sea ice extent, the thickness, snow, the temperatures, and the velocity of the sea ice traveling. They also have a diverse portfolio in terms of the temporal and geographical coverage, and it spans in situ, satellite observations, and model data. These can be provided as real-time data, which usually has the latency of about a day. They also have multi-year reanalysis products that go back up to 30 years, and also provide forecast products that go 10 days into the future. All these products are then grouped into different regions. So you have the global region that covers everywhere outside of Europe as well. And then you have several smaller areas around Europe and the Arctic that cover some slightly higher spatial resolution data products. So in terms of the rest of us, or at least in the other parts of Africa other than the Mediterranean, you be using the GLO or the global products. So they also provide specific products related to the climate. These are monitoring indicators, which are key variables that help us to understand the health of the ocean. They are accessible and free of charge and cover the last 30 years. They also offer some very useful data visualization tools. This goes from very simple My Ocean Learn platform, which is more aimed at the school or the classroom environment. It just provides a couple of indicators like the temperature or the plankton on this nice spinning globe, and just gives basically a year worth of data and just shows how it changes over the globe. The visualization tools then goes up to the My Ocean Pro, which is where you can actually select, visualize, interact with, and download the full catalog of the marine data products available on the Copernicus Marine Services. Besides the operational data, they also provide valuable informative publications, such as the annual Ocean State Report. Issue 8 just came out now, that has information about 2024. They also provide these as a summary, which is only a few pages, and that targets the less scientific communities like the policymakers, media, and the general public. And overall, they just try to make all the valuable insights about the ocean more accessible to everybody. The same thing is done through 2 pages, the Ocean Explainers and the Ocean Climate Portal, which is where they show oceanographic concepts or current threats and perspectives on key variables of the climate and the ocean. And this is also done in a very accessible way that's aimed at a less scientific or potentially a younger audience. Other ways to benefit from the Copernicus Marine Services are through the Blue Markets page. Here they show you how the data information provided by the Copernicus program responds to different needs and markets, from science and innovation to policies, and also coastal services and economy sectors. So they provide examples of how and where the data can be applied to support these different sectors. And then they also similarly have a use cases portal, which provides practical examples of how the Copernicus marine data have been applied in real situations around the world. It's very useful because you can search it per region or per country, but also according to the different sector or domain or application. So also, if you have a use case using Copernicus data, please feel free to submit it as a project. They're always very interested to see how their data has been used everywhere around the world. And then lastly, they also try to make sure that they can support people in the use to use the data and make it as accessible as possible. So they provide webinars, training workshops, hackathons for different thematic areas. Particularly the e-learning materials are very useful because they provide presentations and videos and example code and data sets for working with various Copernicus marine products. So particularly if you are new to coding and programming and you want to learn how to read and summarize the data and make some plots and graphics out of it, this is a really great way to learn. Perhaps after this course, you might be more inspired to go check it out. So yeah, I encourage everybody to visit the website and to explore its different offerings. As I mentioned before, you can explore everything without having an account, but you will need to register for a free account in order to download the data products. So if you haven't done it yet, please go to the main page and just click on the orange registration button at the top right. This will then take you to the registration page where you just put in your information. It's very simple. They do just ask you for your organization and the type of basically what you're going to be using the information for. And this is just very important because it helps to motivate for keeping the Copernicus program going. So it's very useful to give them this information. Lastly, please be sure to write down and remember your login details because you will need to input it during your practical session on day 3 this week when we want to actually download some data from the Copernicus Marine Services in the programming environment. But yeah, so for now, that is it from my side. This was just a little taster of what is to come. Tomorrow, we're actually going to look at the services and downloading a product, and then on the last day we will actually be using the satellite data for some applications. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marie. I have a couple of questions also for you. So I think we're still within good time. So if you can just quickly take a few questions.
Sure.
So the first one says, can we independently rely on Copernicus satellite data for baseline studies whilst we look to gather in situ data? How reliable is the data? How accurate is it?
Okay, thank you for that question. That's actually a very good question. So this is obviously something that as a remote sensing scientist, I do know that it's very important to actually validate and calibrate products in your own region. The methodology that they do use is fairly standard and robust. So I would say that a lot of the time, at least the gross signals of the different products should be fairly accurate. When I say accurate, they should they should show the general trends and the general increases and decreases of where, for instance, phytoplankton would be occurring. It's definitely been validated with various global data sets, so not necessarily at a specific location like off the coast of Kenya, but it might have been validated in different optical water types around the world using long-term data sets that's been collected over many years. So there's definitely a degree of validity built in there. But obviously, if you want to use it for very quantitative analyses or like specific trends in your region, it would be useful to have an additional layer of validation or calibration for your specific area of interest as well on top of that. I hope that answers your question.
Great. As long as I don't receive any feedback on that, we'll consider that answered for now.
Okay.
There's the second question that says, is there in situ marine data available on the site, and does this cover the whole of Africa?
Okay, so there are in situ data sets available on the service, and that would depend on who posted the data and who provided the data. So as far as I know, yes, there are some data from around the coast of Africa or around the African continent. It could have been added from various research cruises or from various floats or buoys or drifters that had been deployed. We can actually maybe check it out tomorrow as part of a practical session in our in the demonstration. So I'll make a note of that. But yes, there are in situ data from all around the world that's included.
Okay, thank you very much. And then there was a question based on your first presentation, so I think I'll just throw it in right now. So he's asking how, if there are tools or the program has tools to support, since you're already doing it in Southern Africa, potential marine aquaculture sites in West Africa, and how would they go about this process to more or less extend that service to particular areas of interest?
Okay, this is actually this would actually be quite a nice cross-fertilization exercise. Maybe we can look at that to do that in the first half of next year. So we have started a aquaculture site suitability study in the coast of Kenya. So they were doing this year effectively a suitability mapping and marine spatial planning to figure out where the best places are to situate, for instance, cage culture for fisheries or seaweed culture. And they're busy refining the methodologies for using, for instance, the Copernicus marine data products to do this. So if there's interest in from other marine spaces around Africa to replicate this study, I think we can look into that. So I would suggest maybe contacting myself as with an email, and yeah, we can look at transferring that knowledge to your area.
All right, thank you very much, Marie. I think that's all the questions we have for now. Do you have any other comments or something that you feel that you would have left out?
Hopefully not, but yeah, so anybody can just, if you're interested in aquaculture site suitability, please reach out to me, and yeah, we can, like I said, we can look at this as another GMS cross-fertilization exercise. Other than that, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Before we proceed, I see the numbers keep fluctuating a bit, so I'm going to break protocol and stray away from our agenda, and I'm going to ask you all to please turn on your cameras. I just want to get a quick snapshot of our attendees for today. So if you can just please turn on your cameras. Your cameras are enabled for all of you for a quick snapshot. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Just a second. All right. We'll continue with the presentations now. So I think it's my turn now, and I'm going to take over. I'm switching from my moderator hat to presenter hat now. Let's quickly share my screen. Marie, can you quickly okay my screen for me?
Yeah, so I can see the junior website.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will be talking about Dunia for Earth observation and how we've been using this under the GMES project to develop certain applications and also to aid with training. To start off, we've got so many issues when it comes to processing of data. Often we have issues with the specifications of your PC, whether they are high spec, they have enough specs. You're wondering about storage, you're wondering about RAM. So often these days we're looking at cloud solutions to be able to relieve us of some of these dependencies when it comes to specifications of our local PCs. So Dunia is an example of such a platform which is used to help process and also disseminate Earth observation data over Africa. And the good thing about this is that you can even get it to work on mobile devices. Just recently, it has introduced a French version. So if you click on the GB flag at the top right-hand corner, you should be able to switch the language to French. So from users from all our Francophone countries, it should be a bit easier for you to be able to navigate on this particular platform in French. But for now, I'll switch to English and then we're able to move from here. So mainly, we're going to be looking mainly at the discover and the build platforms within this training, and that is the main aspects that we'll be using. So when we look at the discover platform or the discover section over here, you're mainly going to be getting access to data sets, to the browser, to a streaming, as well as the wiki. With the data set section, it gives you an idea of all the data that is available on the platform and that you'll be able to download for use on your particular PC. The browser also gives you a map view, which helps you to be able to zoom into particular areas of interest and display specific layers. So I'm going to start right now to be able to display a particular layer. If I click on the eye icon over here, it is going to help display the administrative boundaries within this particular region. So now I'm zooming within Egypt, Red Sea region, and then you should be able to see the various administrative boundaries within this section. There are numerous data sets that you can visualize on the browser. Another example of a data set over here would be, let's say, the global surface water occurrence layer. Unfortunately, for the browser option, you can only visualize one particular layer at a time. So immediately I turn on this layer, the previous layer is going to be turned off. Ensure that you're able to visualize just one layer. So we're now looking at the global surface water occurrence. This is the product that is developed by the Joint Research Commission of the European Union. Based on the legend, you're able to see areas of permanent water, which are shown in blue, like the ocean and this particular lagoon that we're looking at currently. And then we're looking at areas that are occasionally flooded or transition areas, sometimes water in. So these are areas that you are able to visualize, and would encourage you to play with these data sets to zoom into particular areas and this particular function of the browser feature. I'm just going to go back to the home page again so that we can have a look at the other areas. Most importantly, before you start working on Dunia, we ask you to look at the wiki page, or you can also navigate to this particular section by just clicking on the quick start area. So this has all the information about Dunia for beginners, and it has a detailed presentation of all the info and how you can utilize various features within the Dunia ecosystem. There are also some case studies on how the application can be used, different application areas for land monitoring, for marine emergency management, and also atmospheric monitoring, in line with all the particular service areas of the Copernicus, the overall Copernicus program. You also have information on upcoming trainings on this particular site. There are some previous trainings that already happened, and you can see information on this available here, as well as future trainings that are coming up. For ones that have already been conducted, you have the opportunity to also look at the videos and sort of have your own training, self-paced training at your own convenience. So these are all examples of trainings that have happened so far. You have the opportunity to register for upcoming trainings, and any upcoming trainings will be posted on this particular page. Also, there's information on news events, which has happened with relation to Dunia. So we have a mini hackathon that ended just last month in Nairobi, where they utilized Dunia application to do that, and also some information on algal blooms using the sandbox, which we'll look at on the last day. So for today, I'm not going to talk about the sandbox. I'm just giving you an overview of Dunia. So I'm just going to go back to the home page again. To be able to use this, Dunia comes with certain privileges. For now, once you register, you're able to secure 450 hours of processing and 50 gigabytes worth of private storage for each account that is created on Dunia. You also have access to unlimited Earth observation data downloads from the site. And even if your processing hours are exceeded, lose any of the data that is stored within your profile. So you're able to do all that within the particular site. It has been developed by certain partners in partnership with the European Space Agency from Jovil and DLR. Currently, there are over 2,000 users of Dunia on this particular platform. I'm going to go briefly also into the sign-up process if you want to register for an account. All you do is click on the top right corner where it says sign up, and then it will bring you to this particular page. Once you're at this page, you just fill it in, specific details, check on the policy, the privacy policy, to make sure you've read and agreed with the terms and conditions, and just check this capture checkbox over here and click register, and your account should be set up. Once you're done with that, you should be automatically signed in with your account details, or if you've already signed in, you just enter your details within this particular space. You also have recently been integrated with the Copernicus data space ecosystem, where you can just log in with your credentials from the Copernicus data space ecosystem. Honestly, I haven't tried this feature yet, but if you're registered on the Copernicus data space ecosystem, you should be able to log in directly using your credentials from this site. So I'm just going to log in. And then once I log in, we realize that the login button just disappears and we are only left with the sign out button. So with this particular option available to us, we are able to go and download some data sets from the site. So once you click on the data sets, it is going to give you a preview of all the data sets that are available that you should be able to download, even from the browser section. You can also look for data available within this particular area. So should I type maybe Sentinel and query the database, it should be able to bring up all the data sets that are available with respect to Sentinel, and it will remove all other stuff. So you can make it more specific by adding more details to it. You can click on the particular data set to get more information about it. For instance, you're going to get some baseline information on the Sentinel-3 mission, the documentation on it, as well as an API if you want to integrate it within particular applications. For the interactive log, you should be able to download your data by specifying particular dates that you want to download your data from. So I'm just going to use an example, maybe to look at dates starting from the 1st of May. My end period would then be, I don't want too much of a period, so I'm just going to select the 3rd of August. You click on the next button, which is now going to give you an interactive map area where you're going to draw a polygon within this particular area. You can zoom in to the section to be able to make it easier for you to highlight or draw your polygon of interest. So you can do that by just clicking for particular sites, and once you're done, you double click to make sure the area that is selected. If that is not the desired position, you can always start over again to select your desired area. So for this particular example, I'm going to zoom in to certain parts of Egypt. Just select, just select an area over here. And this is going to be the area that we're going to be working with to be able to do the query. Once you click on next, it's going to query the system to look at all the data that is available within the period in which you were searching. And these are the results that it was able to give us. So we have some information from different, both the Sentinel A and B satellites for both ALTI, sea surface temperature, and the altimeter instruments. Once you are okay with the search results, it's a simple click of a button with the download icon here, and your data download should begin. And it's as simple as that. If you want to embed this within the sandbox, you would be able to have a code snippet over here. We'll go through this on the 3rd day, that's on Thursday, and we'll get more information about this. So you can clip or copy any sections of this to the sandbox to be able to use in there. Okay, I think I'll end here for now. If we have any questions, I can take them for now. Okay, so there's a question from Basiru. I'm just going to briefly allow your microphone so you can ask your question. Basiru, can you please unmute question since you have your hand up? Basiru, are you there? Okay, so I'm just going to read the questions from the chat. What are the minimum specifications required to seamlessly work with these map browsers and offline maps? So for the Dunia platform, any computer or laptop that is running a web browser, basically, you should be able to access the site, whether Windows or Linux or Mac, you should be able to access the site. Once you have a browser, all you need to do is just open up the browser, type in the link like we see here, dunia.esa.int, and you should be able to get access to all these tools. Do we have any other questions? Okay, I think we have enough questions on this particular topic. We'll be looking at other sections of this, including the sandbox and the application hub within the last part of the training. But like I said earlier, each particular user, once you are signed up to Dunia, you're able to get these specifications on a virtual machine for early adopters. And you're able to get 4 virtual CPUs and 16 gig worth of RAM. For the storage, you have 50 gig, like I mentioned earlier, and then you don't lose any of your storage once you're working on it. Should you have any issues with using or your user experience, all you have to do is click on the support button that you see at the bottom here, and then you raise a ticket with Dunia. Obviously, you need to have been registered and logged in to be able to create a ticket. So what you do is you just click on create ticket. You enter the name of the problem that you're trying to solve. You can put the text description, the particular item in there. If you have pictures, you can add an attachment to make it a bit easier to understand your problem, which will enable you to get help for it. And then you can click create. Once you're done, hopefully someone will get back to you on that if you have any other issues. Okay, so I think I'm done for Dunia for today. Like I said, on the last day, we'll come back to Dunia again, where we'll be using the sandbox in the practical session. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to look through the Q&A if there's any. Okay, so there's one question over here. It says, can data from Dunia be imported to a spatial mapping tool such as ArcGIS? The answer is yes. Every information on Dunia, once you can download it or even use it in the sandbox, you should be able to load it as a raster data into any GIS software. In fact, within the sandbox section, there is a graphical interface where you have access to pre-installed software such as Snap, QGIS, and GRASS. So you should be, even within Dunia, be able to do all these GIS analysis and even create all your maps within there. But like I said, again, today was just to show you an introduction to Dunia. When we get to the practical section, I will take you into the sandbox and show you all the tools that are also available via the sandbox. Is it a standalone platform? I can say yes, because it gives you access to the different chains within the same platform. So you are getting access to data, you are getting access to processing tools, you are getting access to visualization software. So from the whole chain, from start to finish, you are getting access to all these tools that are available there. And note that this has also been connected to the Copernicus monitoring service, as well as even some aspects of the land monitoring service. So you should be able to get access to all the products that are available on the Copernicus Marine Service data store within Dunia. So you do not have to download and then load it into Dunia, because it's already available there for you to access. Does this answer all your questions so far? I think I'm done from my side. There's a question for you, Marie, that I missed. It says, is there any data available through the Copernicus Marine Service specifically for the African region?
Sorry, I missed the first part of the question. Can you just repeat that, please?
There's a question about bathymetry data. Is there any bathymetry data available through the Copernicus marine data store specifically for the African region?
I think I can say yes, safely say yes on that one, particularly the modeled data products. They would have a bathymetry layer included. I am not sure whether this is at a high enough resolution. Personally, I tend to use the JEPCO bathymetry, and I usually just download my region of interest from that, and then use that alongside the Copernicus data products. But I mean, for instance, for the model products, the spatial resolution is about 9 kilometers or so. So there should be a 9-kilometer bathymetry data set included in Copernicus as well. But yeah, you can always use other bathymetry data sources. And for instance, in Junior, you can import any data that you've already got into Junior to use together with any of the other data sources that Junior already has, which makes it quite a useful platform.
Okay, thank you, Marie. I think I don't see any other questions on there. I'll to invite questions in case you missed any particular sections, questions that you wanted to ask regarding the earlier presentations. You can drop them in the chat or the Q&A sections and we'll get them answered for you. In the absence of questions right now, I just want to briefly go through our presenters for today and get some concluding remarks from them. And then I'll give you the expectations for tomorrow. So maybe since you're still here with me, Marie, can you give me some concluding remarks on today's webinar?
Would you like just on my presentations or on all of the presentations?
On all the presentations, but if you can be more skewed towards yours. If you have any comments on the other presentations, you can make them as well.
Okay, thank you. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. So on day one, we went through and showed you the GMS in Africa program. We also showed you the 2 marine consortia within the GMS in Africa program. So that was Mark Noah, which represents the North and the Western African consortia members or African regions. We also showed you the Marcosio Consortia, which covers the Southern and Eastern and Western Indian Ocean parts. We had a wonderful presentation introducing the ecology of coral reefs from Swale. And we're going to carry on tomorrow a little bit more, showing you more about coral reef ecology, the threats, climate change, and more of the monitoring tools. So today we covered more on the ecology and the in situ monitoring techniques for coral reefs. And like I said, tomorrow we're going to cover some other aspects of the monitoring. We also showed you an introduction to the satellite monitoring tools that we have on offer this week. So we showed you the Copernicus Marine Services. So basically just touching on the website and all the different information you can find on the website. And Ignatius also showed us the Junior platform, which we're going to be using as our platform to explore the data later on in the week. And yes, I hope I didn't miss anything, but that's kind of the summary I have for you today.
Okay, thank you very much, Marie. You've done a very good job for me. I just realized that there was a question that came in that I missed. So there's someone asking if he can use a Gmail account to register on the Dunia platform, or do you have to use your official email? Platform accepts any email accounts. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
you wanted to say something?
No, I just wanted to say you can use whatever works. I often have to use my Gmail so that it doesn't end up in spam. So yeah, if you want to use your Gmail, feel free.
Yes. All you need is that you just make sure that you have access to that particular email, because once you're registered, you're going to have a confirmation email that is going to be sent to your account, and that's what you're going to use to verify your registration. So as long as it's a working email account, shouldn't be any problem. But in case you do encounter problems with your registration, like I said, just create a ticket or reach out to any of us, and then we'll look into the problem for you. Before I conclude, I just quickly want to take you through the agenda for tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to start again at the same time, and we're going to be looking at the impact of climate change and human activities on coral reefs. We're going to have another presenter from Cordio, East Africa, and that's going to be delivered by Karen. And then James is going to take us through in situ coral bleaching observation and reporting. And we're going to have the lovely Marie Smith again, who's going to take us deeper into the Copernicus Marine Service, looking at data access from the particular platform, and if possibly also take us into the My Ocean viewer, where we're going to be able to visualize some of the data sets that are available on the Copernicus Marine Service website. We're going to wrap it up with our discussion and then take all questions from you guys. It's been a lovely 1 hour, 40 minutes so far. And we appreciate your effort and the time for joining us. Join us again, same time tomorrow, using the same links as you received during your registration. And there will be certificates for this training. Note that the certificates would only be available for participants who joined the entire 3 days of the training and the feedback survey at the end of the training. That is the only caveat to receiving the certificates. Okay, thank you all, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
I don't know.